Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Today is the last day of March and the last day that we can honor women history and Women's History Month of March. And we have chosen today to honor several of our Navy astronaut ladies. And we have a group of them that we're going to talk about. Actually, got about 8 of them racked up here as I count the pictures in front of me here to tell you a brief little book report of a couple of these wonderful ladies and some very interesting pioneering aviators that I got turned on to thanks to astronaut Kay Heyer. And this show today is pretty much inspired by a lunch conversation I had with astronaut Kay Heyer. And we're going to see her and talk about her here in a little bit. But first, I want to say hello to my co-producer, Marty Winkle. Marty's episode 785 today as we go into our 4th year. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
Well, good. He's talking on our UCX family microphone, just one of the several donations we've gotten here at the American Space Museum. And as we got 2 weeks till income tax day, if you want to give a tax donation to the American Space Museum, we are an A+ rated nonprofit here in America and in Florida, and we can certainly use our money on Stay Curious to broaden our horizons and produce this program, hopefully on location. And but we're going to, so that's that pitch for our nonprofit there. And another pitch for 2 weeks from today. Whoop, Marty, we got those a little out of whack. There we go. 2 weeks from today, Shuttle Fest 2. There's the QR code that you can download to pay $15 instead of $20 for your ticket and choose a lunch of either a chicken Caesar salad or a turkey sandwich. And then we got a whole bunch of other places nearby you can eat. But we're going to feature the space documentary, Base to Space. It's all about the mobile launch platform. There you see it being carried by the crawler on this beautiful picture by our friend Ann Miklos, who's also a shuttle worker. We're putting the finishing touches on it as we're 2 weeks away. We're grateful to the Hyatt Place Hotel for hosting this with us, and we'll be having some interviews with people that are involved in Shuttle Fest and been promoting it all over the next 2 weeks. So don't want to miss it if you're a local person. We're lining up a great list of panel discussions, and an astronaut or two will probably show up. But we are very proud that we're putting this program on another year and look forward to every year having a Shuttle Fest for you to enjoy. We're actually got 3, 4, and 5 kind of lined out of how we want them to go. So I appreciate everybody's support, and you can go to that website or the QR code and even make a donation to our museum. If you can't come to Shuttle Fest, there's a donation button there. Well, we're going to talk about these female Navy astronauts. I may have missed 1 or 2 of them, so please don't beat me up. But we're going to feature a little bit about Suni Williams, Nancy Kilrain, Kay Heyer, Wendy Lawrence have been to space, as has Heidi Piper and Lisa Nowak. Kayla Barron and Nicole Mann are new ladies of our Artemis generation that have been in space. So we're going to talk a little bit about each one of them, and I thank Kay Heyer for putting that in my ear. You'll see the book that inspired this, as well as what Kay and I talked about. She's going to be a good friend of the museum. I just know it. She comes to Space Coast quite a bit, and I've been happy to meet her a few times. But we are going to first, Marty, we've got an astronaut birthday to take care of. And you know that on Stay Curious, we love our shuttle astronauts, over 350 of them doing great things in our communities throughout America. No exception is this gentleman, three-time astronaut, and he's an Army warrior. Patrick Graham Forrester is 66 today, born March 31st, 1957 in El Paso, Texas, but he grew up in Springfield, Virginia. Forrester has 4 spacewalks totaling 25 hours during his 40 days in space on 3 shuttle missions. STS 105, 117, and 128. So all those were hard hat missions when Pat was a space walker. And he graduated U.S. Navy Test Pilot School. And here he is in space. Of course, he's at Fort Rucker, which means he had some helicopter training. And like Kathy Thornton and Bob Seek, he has a degree of Master's of Science from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. So we wish this three-time hard hat working astronaut that helped build our International Space Station, Pat Forrester, a happy 66th birthday today, wherever he is. And we can't ever ignore the moon race between the USA and the USSR in 1960s. And in 1966, just 3 years, think about this, before the first landing on the moon, the Soviets put the first artificial satellite orbiting the moon on this date, March 31st, 1966. Called Luna 10, it played the first music from space. What? Well, during this undeclared moon race between the USA and USSR, here's the profile that this took. And it was launched towards the moon from an orbiting Earth platform, all right, and there were no cameras on board. But just as it was going around the backside of the moon, its transmitters were turned on full blast. And the message was the communist anthem, the Internationale. It was immediately broadcast live to the 5,000 people at the U.S. Congress, at a Congress in Moscow there, and they went wild hearing their national anthem coming from the moon 250,000 miles away. Well, it was revealed decades later that the transmission, though it was from Luna 10, wasn't live but recorded the day before and broadcast to them. So quite a historic mission. It did gamma ray observing. It has the first magnometer that found some irregularities in the lunar surface that we call mascons that speeded up and slowed down the Apollo crafts as they went around them. So just another day in history. Well, we love our lady astronauts so much that we put every one of them up in our women's gallery. Here's just one side of that ladies gallery that we'll be celebrating, I think, our 5th year coming up this year in September. It was going to be a temporary exhibit, but was so popular we couldn't take it down. A profile of all 72 women who've been in space. We have the 3 center directors above the head of the mannequin that has Kathy Thornton's blue suit on it that she gave us. And we even have a tribute out there to Wally Funk, one of the original women astronauts in the 60s, as well as some of the what we call Karmanauts here, the suborbital astronaut ladies that went above the Kármán line, or 100 kilometers or 62 miles into Earth's atmosphere. So that begs, as we're talking about women, Marty, that brings up my favorite meme of all time. Of course, I learned the word meme like everybody else, a little mini poster. Before I get to that, I got to show you the handprints there that we have of Kathy Sullivan, Sally Ride on the far right, and in the middle is Eileen Collins. 3 outstanding women that we featured many times and profiled. This month we talked about Kathy this week, but there's their handprints in bronze, and Sally Rides at the far right are one of the most well-worn in our museum, along with, of course, Neil Armstrong. But here is this famous meme that I love, Marty. A woman applying for a job, and the human resource lady says, "We're looking for someone who can do the work of 2 men. And, oh, it's only part-time." And one of the women in the museum said that's true when she heard me talking about that. So we can poke fun at ourselves, us men, though. I'm not a man that ever thought that we should hold women back, and frankly, it confuses me that women aren't equal with men in every aspect of society in today's 21st century. But just a little program on the women of the Navy, inspired by Kay Heyer there. That is Steve Lloyd and Stephanie Sherby of the Stephanie Sherby. Steve Lloyd are with All Points, a fabulous company that is going to do great things out the Space Center. They're creating another facility to process satellites in. And so I sat down, had lunch at her request, and she started talking about this book. There's beautiful Kay Heyer. Been to space twice for about 30 days, about a month in space. She took the cupola up to the International Space Station on one of her missions. A very articulate and wonderful lady that you know where you stand when you talk to her. She's not much of a joiner. She thinks women should stand on their own instead of joining a lot of their women's oriented organizations, because she says the whole point of women being in society is to get away from being clustered together and integrated with men. But she inspired this little talk that we put together here on the women of the U.S. Navy, and inspired by this book, Wings of Gold, all right, which feature one of the ladies of, I believe this woman's name is Monroe, though I would prefer to have the first 6 women Navy aviators on the cover, as she was not the first one to go to fly. We're going to talk about that lady here in a minute. But nonetheless, a book worthy of your attention, Wings of Gold. I think below my name there, Marty, it says, oh, well, it's the first Navy's first flyers on there. And here's a little outline I took off the Navy website, showing us a few historical moments. And of course, would you believe 50 years ago, this month of March was the first class of women, all right, to be admitted into the Navy Flight School. And there they are. Captain Wendy Lawrence was the first graduate of that Navy program to fly in space. You've got Marty. We've got some wonderful women there that are the first commanders of a destroyer, aircraft carrier, and so on and so forth. It took them a while to get there, but they're there to stay, and we honor them today. Here's a few. I don't expect you to read all this. Significant milestones for women in the naval aviation. In June 1964 was Clara Johnson, and she received the designation as the first photographer in a Navy airplane to go up. Then you had in 73 the first 2 women to be Navy flight surgeons, McWilliams and Vogue. All right, and then you had your first U.S. Navy helicopter plane captain in 1972, Roseanne Roberts, but it was in the first women admitted 50 years ago included Judith Neufer Bruner, who we're going to talk about, and the first 6 women allowed Jane Sykes. I'm trying to read it myself. Jo Ellen Auckland, Rosemary Mariner, she's the cover of that book, and Anna Marie Fuqua. So a lot of women's history is being celebrated 50 years later, and this is one of the women that broke the glass ceiling. Going to talk a little bit about Judith Neufer. Judy Neufer Bruner was her married name. She was an American Navy aviator and a NASA manager. She was one that segued into the NASA community in the science world with the Hubble and so forth. And Marty, back in the 70s, if you were on the cover of Parade magazine, everybody knew who you were, because that was in the Sunday paper that everybody had took a lot of time to develop and digest. She was in the first group of women to receive orders for Navy flight training in 1973, and the first to earn her pilot's wings. And then she was senior manager at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Here, Judy Neufer's performing a pre-flight check in 1974. She grew up in Wooster, Ohio, and I know where that's at on 224 in the middle of the state, US 224. I learned to drive through Wooster, going from Findlay to Akron, Ohio to see my uncle. She's also a Buckeye, all right, from University of Ohio, Ohio State University, a bachelor's degree in 1966. She's the first woman to fly solo on a U.S. Navy aircraft, a T-34B Mentor, in May 10th, 1973. And I know that Kay Heyer was really wanted me to know that she was the first woman to pilot an aircraft through the eye of a hurricane, Marty. And she passed away this year, last December, in fact, at age 74. Here's a picture of her late in life. But after her Navy career, uh, Judy Neufer Bruner began her career with NASA in 1981, working as a contractor on the Hubble Space Telescope. And then, like I said, she became an important manager at Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, was involved in the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, SOHO, and was also involved with the Columbia investigation. And like we said, she passed away last December and is honored to be buried at our National Cemetery in Arlington. And there's something you knew nothing about, a beautiful, wonderful lady that's truly an inspiration to men and women, Judy Neufer Bruner. And here is another lady as we segue into our Navy female astronauts. And some of you are maybe going, oh my gosh, Mark's going to talk about Lisa Nowak, who was dismissed from NASA. Yes, I am. She was an astronaut. She had a wonderful flight. And we'll find out as you stay curious what's happened with this infamous woman caught in a love triangle almost 20 years ago. But let's look at one of the real outstanding women as we go across Suni Williams there. Love to meet Suni Williams. She is a Navy officer who formerly held records for the most spacewalks by a woman, which was 7, and the most time in space for a woman, 50. Of course, that's been eclipsed by years later by some of the newer astronauts up there, like I think Jessica Meir and Christina Cook are the ones that usurped her. She is a Mumbai Indian, born to an African neuroentomologist, Deepak Pandya, and a Sloven American, Ursuline, which her mother was. So quite a mix she's got there of European and Indian descent. She is going to be the pilot of the slap me around, Mark, the Boeing Starliner. Here's Suni's in space. She's a native of Needham, Massachusetts, but was born in Euclid, Ohio. Another Ohio knot that really didn't grow up in Ohio. She received initial H-46C night training in helicopter combat support, and she was involved in the Red Sea, Mediterranean, and Persian Gulf operations of Desert Shield. And so she has some active wartime efforts in there. And then when she became an astronaut in 1998, she became one of the most experienced astronauts. Like I said, 321 days. She was on expeditions 14 and 15. Then went back again on another expedition. I always like saying that she rode in the Boston Marathon on her exercise bicycle for whatever duration that would have been. And she is in queue to be pilot with Butch Wilmer there of the Starship by Boeing, which has been pushed back from April to July. So we can't wait to celebrate her launch, Marty, and see her lift off the coast with Butch Wilmer, another experienced shuttle astronaut there, and get that Starliner off the ground and in queue to take our astronauts up to their wonderful space station. And there you have Suni Williams, a Navy astronaut par excellence. And here's somebody, I again missed this lady. Marty, you saw her talk at the astronaut encounter. Susan Leah Still Kilrain. Her maiden name is Still. She was a pilot twice on the STS-83 and the reflight of it, STS-94. That was a science mission that one of the fuel cells went out on the shuttle and they brought it back and then reflew it, I think, within 6 months later. And so she's twice a pilot, which usually qualifies you to be a commander. And I asked our good friend Nick Thomas, who's our astronaut wrangler, why wasn't she a commander? Stick around to be a female commander. Well, she's married to a overzealous Navy SEAL. Okay, her husband, Vice Admiral Colin Kilrain. They have 4 children. All right, so two trips to space was enough for Susan there, and she talks a lot about that. That having a husband who's a Navy SEAL and 4 kids, doesn't leave a lot of time to train to be a commander of a spaceship. But nonetheless, I have a story for her that she relates in public speaking that she does a lot of. She had a chance to speak with Dick Scobie, who died as the commander of our Challenger STS-51L, and he advised her to join the military as a pilot if she wanted to increase her chances to become an astronaut, which she did. She joined the Navy, and then she says she quickly realized that the Navy was not a woman-friendly organization, and they were reluctant to accept her. To which she said, quote, I realized that I was a woman in a man's world, so I was going to be an outsider. My whole philosophy was not to make waves. My goal was to be an astronaut. I wanted to fit in without accepting unacceptable behavior. And so she was a pioneer of some of that, weeding out some of that unacceptable behavior by the chauvinistic men of the Navy. And she did just fine, I believe. She's now retired as a motivational speaker. Susan Kilrain is. Here's another beautiful picture of her. Boy, I wanted to see her out there, Marty, bad, but I was just too immersed in whatever I was doing, a Chamber of Commerce meeting or something like that. But her 19 days in space on 2 shuttle missions, she sums it up by saying, looking down at Earth from space the first time, it's like a dream come true. Even though you've seen pictures of Earth from space, it's not the same as being in space and looking at Earth. It was very rewarding. And she wrote a book about that experience for kids called The Unlikely Astronaut, about her experience of being a female in the Navy-dominated male world, as well as being a pilot and not wanting just to be a mission specialist. And this book has got to be a good one, Marty, because it's written by one of the expert, helped write with one of space historians there, Francis French, helped her with this book. So I'm going to encourage our wonderful office manager, Anita Truex, to get that book in here. And next time Susan comes on the Space Coast, we'll maybe get her to autograph a bunch of them for the kids. So well thought of is she that in 2020, Susan Kilrain was named one of the 100th important women in our century. So kudos to her. And another astronaut on our list of Navy pilots up there is Heidi Meyer Stefansson Piper. She is an American Navy officer, achieved the rank of captain. Her 2 missions, 115 and 126, gave her 28 days almost in space. And born in St. Paul, Minnesota, of Ukraine American heritage. She went to school up there in St. Paul, married Glenn Piper. They have a son. And she had a distinguished career with lots of awards. She was at a training center, Panama City. She participated in de-stranding the tanker Exxon Houston off the coast of Hawaii, and reached the rank of captain on there. So Heidi Piper, thank you for your service to your country in both ways as a Navy captain and a space shuttle special mission specialist there. Cannot leave out, all right, Lisa Nowak, STS 121 in 2006, 121 days in space. And though she had a bad day when she was involved in a love triangle, and bad day is an understatement, okay. She was arrested for wanting to kidnap another astronaut's girlfriend. We've talked about the story before, but the former NASA employee involved in the infamous love triangle now lives a quiet life in Texas. Um, she lives in a modest four-bedroom home outside of Houston, living working in the private sector. She's now 59 years old. Her children are fully grown. Her oldest son is 30, and her twin daughters are now 21. We know a lot of people in our famous people that have fallen and fallen bad. Some of them we've forgiven and looked the other way. Maybe golfer Tiger Woods would come into that category. Some that we don't look the other way or forgive them. Maybe comedian Roseanne Barr is one of those, as well as Lisa Nowak. Not defending her either way. She did a horrible, horrible thing. But many people found Nowak's story fascinating, and get less of her on there and more of me, huh, Marty? I just thought it'd be interesting to point out that her story of this love triangle has been adapted for television, movies, and a 2007 episode of Law and Order: Criminal Intent that was inspired by the Nowak story. It actually featured a love triangle among astronauts. I'm not familiar with that because I don't watch that program. Songs have been written about it. There was a music video by Asta that referenced her actions. And she was the subject of a play, Star Crosser's Cut, which opened in LA in 2019, and the 2019 or 2013, and the 2019 film Lucy in the Sky, starring Natalie Portman, was produced loosely based on Nowak's fall from grace there. So hope you're doing well, Lisa. You paid for your crimes, and think about her children, that they have to know about this and live through it like so many famous children of people who go astray. So, well, we cannot ignore our Navy Artemis astronauts there. Kayla Barron on the left and Nicole Mann on the right. Nicole Mann just came back as commander of Crew 5 that just landed. Kayla Barron, I think, was on Crew 3. Someone can correct me, but it doesn't matter. Two experienced astronauts that have Navy backgrounds. And Nicole Mann, as Marty would say, my Marine producer Marty here would say, Nicole Mann graduated from the men's department of the Navy, the Marines. And boy, she has to have a lot of stories to tell there. And we're proud of her. But we give a couple shout outs there to our Artemis Navy astronauts, Kayla Barron and Nicole Mann. And next up then would be, someone who's not an astronaut, but our ace volunteer, Connie McDaniel's, I think it's her nephew, was a aviator on the Blue Angels. And Blue Angels made history with this woman, Amanda, and her nickname is Stalin Lee, became the first woman to fly in the demo formation of the FA-18EF Super Hornet team of the Navy, Blue Angels. And she has been doing that almost 2 years. She's from Lieutenant Amanda Lee is from Mounds View, Minnesota. The first woman to serve as a demonstration pilot. Her nickname is Stalin. All right. And you've got to have a lot on board to do that, okay? I don't even understand some of these things that she did. She was part of the first ever all-female flyover as part of the funeral service for retired Navy Captain Rosemary Mariner, who was featured on that book, one of the that we talked about, the Wings of Gold is the name of that book, to honor that woman. And there's a beautiful picture of Amanda Lee. She gave Captain Mariner was really a starting point for her female aviation, and inspiration for her to fly that flyover was a dream come true. And she isn't the first woman to take the skies with the Blue Angels. That honor goes to Marine Major Katie Higgins, who flew the team's C-130 Fat Albert transport for 2 years. All right. So we just wanted to give a little shout out there to that the women barrier has even been broken on the Blue Angels, making history, and I believe they're flying this weekend in the Lakeland area on there. So hope that Doug Forrest is enjoying our Stay Curious telecast today. Doug is going to be one of our artists in 2 weeks that you're going to enjoy at our Shuttle Fest. Tom and Mark Usiak are also watching. Tom's going to be there. Leslie Day, thank you for watching. Carlton Bailey, thank you, buddy. I'll be seeing you at the latest on Sunday. Bill Whiting's watching. Dave Stange, Natalie Howe, Chris Calley. He will be our featured artist at our Shuttle Fest. Chris is world known and the son of the Paul Calley, who did a lot of art in the Apollo era. Steve Hammer's watching. Daniel DeYoung watching instead of flying our friendly skies for Spirit Airlines. And Keith Sewell, glad that you're chiming in there and relaxing on your vacation, Keith, as I get queued up here for the woman that inspired me to do this talk on Navy pilots and astronauts, not just the pilots, but the astronauts, Miss Kay Heyer. Kay was born in Mobile, Alabama, and she was a Navy captain, flown on 2 space flights, as I mentioned, STS-90. It was a neurological space lab situation there, and then she took the cupola up and helped install that. She earned her Navy Flight Officer wings in October 1982, and Kay's been very involved in oceanographic flying, all right? And she even instructed naval officers training at Mather Air Base in California. Kay was the first female in the U.S. military assigned to a combat crew, reporting to Patrol Squadron 62 on May 13th, 1993. And she was flying the P3. She was a Navy communicator, navigation communicator in the P3C update, Orion, on a maritime patrol. She later served on the USS Kitty Hawk, and she supported Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraq Freedom. And when Kay got out of the Army, or the Navy, Mark, we're talking about, she began work at Kennedy Space Center in 1989 as an orbiter processing facility member. And then she got certified as a mechanical engineer for Lockheed Space Operations, and she became a test pilot engineer. And here she is at what we call the rocket reunion in November here on the Space Coast with other test pilot engineers, like Melinda Tribe is beside her there. There's Larry, I see in there, and a couple others there. Who's in the red jacket, Marty? He helps us a lot.
Yeah, that's Eric Baker.
Yeah, Eric Baker's there. You recognize anybody else?
No, I don't. Now with the beard I do, but I can't place him.
Yeah, my senior moments with my names there. But Kay, pretty humble lady outside the office type of thing, fits in real well, loves to just talk about the old days at the shuttle and have a beer or two with their chums there. Why not? And of course, get a mug shot with my boss, Karan Conklin, in the center there. And that Karan, again, our leader here at the American Space Museum, and love her to death and all that she does. Kay, we want to get you involved with our American Space Museum. I've talked to you several times about it. Get you on this side of Stay Curious to talk about your fabulous career. She retired in 2019 and is doing a lot of consulting and working for different companies out there. Very active between Houston here and the Space Center. So, Kay, best to you. Thank you for inspiring me to talk about some of our NASA female Navy astronauts there. And I hope that you all enjoyed that out there on Stay Curious as we end March on a high note, talking about some of our fabulous Navy astronauts and a few that we highlighted that inspired these astronauts there. So, Marty, thank you for a great Streamlabs presentation today. Anything we need to clean up?
Nope, we're doing good.
All right, there's the meme for our Shuttle Fest 2. already kind of making plans for 3, 4, and 5 loosely because we want to make this an A class event for shuttle workers and astronauts so that you, the shuttle space lover, can come and rub elbows with some of these important people. You can register for it. You can pay $20 at the door, save $5 there on the QR code. So, Marty, thank you for another great week where we have stayed curious again. Let me put that up there and get rid of that. And just say that I am very grateful for everybody's support on this Stay Curious program and on our Shuttle Fest. We feel like we're in a pretty good place for it right now, but as we go down the years, it'll be some of you getting involved in it, like William Whiting, who's going to help us out a lot. Thank you, Bill, for your work there. So, Marty, until we rack it up and do it again next week, I'm Marquette saying that we're very grateful for all of you that support the American Space Museum, and I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.